I recently read a book that I'm just going to say flat out is one of the best narrative nonfiction books by a journalist I've ever read.
Now we're talking. Here we go.
I cannot recommend it highly enough. I urge everyone to read this book, even if they're not interested in the subject on the surface. So the book is called The Outlaw Ocean, Journeys Across the Last Untamed Frontier by Urbina, who is a former investigative reporter for the New York Times. He was here for 17 years. I actually never met him, although he was on the podcast when this book came out in 2019. This book is about maritime law, the lack of maritime law, and the abuses of nearly non-existent maritime law, which is to say, most of the earth, as we know, is covered with ocean, and most of that ocean is not governed by anyone. I mean, there are some loose international agreements and laws that no one is able to or willing or has the money or desire sometimes to enforce, and that therefore is an enormous cesspool of international crime that goes on, that everyone is aware takes place, and very little is done about it. And so there is slavery at sea. There is, of course, piracy, which is probably the thing that we've heard most about. People know Captain Phillips, people think about Somalia, but that piracy is all over the place. That piracy is what you would expect, which is it's theft at sea. And why wouldn't it be rampant? Because there are no police officers out there. There's no CIA or FBI. There is no one that can cover the huge, vast stretches of ocean where all of this crime takes place. Illegal fishing is just one of the many issues in the book that's covered, and what you find out will absolutely appall you, not just in terms of the environmental devastation, but the exploitation of workers, and exploitation in terms of indentured servitude, in terms of outright slavery, physical and emotional abuse, the conditions that we sometimes read about in developing nations with regard to factory conditions are nothing compared to what it is at sea. The detail in this book, I could talk about this for a very long time. I'll say a few things specifically about what makes it so good. It's not just the subject matter, it's the way in which Urbina structures his story. Unlike some journalists where a book is kind of created based off a series of articles, it always feels like a coherent whole. You never feel like, okay, and now we're at the next story that he reported. And he very deftly interweaves behind the scenes how I did this. He doesn't overly rely on the first person narrative. It doesn't feel like an egotistical book. He explains, you might be wondering how I got this person to talk to me, or you may be wondering how I got aboard this vigilante ship that's going after illegal poachers because, no government will. And the way he gets aboard them is like, it's worthy of a movie. And then the other thing that I think makes it so powerful is that it's a little bit like when the movie Apollo 13 was being made. I remember there was some kind of interview with Ron Howard, the director, or with Tom Hanks, in which they said, we made the decision not to embellish this at all because the simple facts of what happened are so insane that it's hard enough to believe it as it is. Like, there's just no reason to exaggerate. And that's the way this book feels. It feels like very journalistically responsible. There's no exaggeration. If anything, it is very low key. And yet, for a nonfiction book, I found it to be one of the most page-turnery books I've read in a long time. I stayed up late reading. I woke up early to read. I was reading in the middle of the night. So there you have it, The Outlaw Ocean.
I know you've read a great deal of reported nonfiction, so if you're saying it's one of the best things you've read, then that's a huge recommendation.
It is so good. I basically, if you don't care, even if you don't care about the ocean, you should read this book, is what I'm saying.